So a question that I get asked every now and then on my YouTube channel is, how did I actually get into using fountain pens? And the reason being is, I'm a teenager, and the chance that I've been using fountain pens since I was born is pretty much this. The reason being is, obviously, we have these lovely little pens, thanks to the damn Industrial Revolution, and thanks to us forgetting about fountain pens, and us being stuck with these. These are horrid little ballpoint pens. This is a pen that I used pretty much exclusively throughout primary school and the beginning of high school. This is the Papermate Kilometrico, and it's just a hateful little pen. So before we jump into fountain pens and everything, let's just talk about me writing, because from year 7 till about year 9, when I first got into high school, we were given the choice of actually being able to use laptops, and by the time year 8 rolled around, a lot of people had just switched over to using laptops, but me, I chose to lug around a lot of exercise books just to do, proper handwriting, because I always thought that handwriting, there's something much more fun about it. I can do little doodles, get a little bit more distracted, and as well as that, I think I remember a lot better when I actually write something down, and there's studies to prove that. But using these little horrid little pens, it wasn't working out for me. One, these are incredibly thin pens. I think they have a diameter of about 6-8 millimeters. They are tiny, and the way that I grip it was very uncomfortable, so much that after about 5-10 minutes of writing, I would strain the living crap out of my hand. But I kept using this pen for about 3 whole years, 2.5, 3 years. I get so many flashbacks when I see this pen. I pretty much ridded my house of the awful spirits of this pen, Gotta have an exorcist when you get fountain pens. So sometime in the beginning of year 9, I was actually smart enough to find one of these pens. This is a rollerball, and it was pretty much night and day when you write with rollerballs. Instead of using the horrid gel-based ink, which is one of the reasons why it's so grippy to use a ballpoint pen, is because they use gel inks. These pens here, they used proper liquid ink, and it was absolutely a game changer. It was so easy to write with these pens, never strain your hand or anything. The biggest issue with these pens, however, was the cost. So these pens were about $4 each, and an Australian term is about 12 weeks long, and the issue was I would empty one of these pens in about 2 weeks. They were just not holding in long enough. So if you do the math, that's about $40 a term, 4 terms. That is easily about, $160 per year. That is absolutely insane, and I was really just blowing through these pens. And unfortunately, because you're in high school, it is an absolute wild west in terms of pens. You'd put these pens down, look away for 1 second, just a fraction of a nanosecond, and your pen would have been gone, stolen by someone, and that is the end of the pen. So you'd go ahead and steal someone else's pen, and while you were stealing someone else's pen, your pen would be stolen, and you get another pen, and that would be stolen. You get the point. These were expensive, and they kept getting stolen, so there had to be another way. There really did have to be another way. So halfway through, I think, year 10, I was looking for more rollerballs, and I was looking in my grandmother's desktop drawer downstairs, and I came across this pen here. Not this exact pen, but it was a pen that looked very similar to it, and I pulled the top off. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. And my god, it was a fountain pen, and up until that point I had never used a fountain pen before. So using my acquired skills of borrowing ballpoint pens, I went ahead and borrowed this pen, and I absolutely fell in love with it within the first day of using it. The Pilot Varsity V pen was just beautiful. Even though that there is no flex from this nib, just the feel of using a fountain pen, having a writing experience where when you press down, there is a little bit of give because the nib flexes. It was absolutely so much fun to use. So halfway in year 11, year 10, I started using this fountain pen, and unfortunately this pen only lasted me about a week and a little bit, and it unfortunately ran out. So pretty much same day that it ran out, I went on eBay and started looking for fountain pens, and I had no idea what I was looking about. And when I came to this eBay listing about some Pilot pen, $27, I had no idea what I was doing, but hey, it was made by Pilot, so I went ahead and bought it, and it came in the mail a few days later, and it was this. This is the Pilot 78G, the first fountain pen that I ever purchased with my money. It came with a fine nib, and it came with a few ink cartridges. And I popped in the ink cartridges, and it wouldn't write. I'm like, oh, well that's underwhelming, isn't it? I went ahead, well this has a converter in it, but I went ahead and tried to, push the ink in, and it still wouldn't write. So I pretty much left it for 3 days, thought my purchase was a waste. Then I went online and had a look on actually how to use a fountain pen, and I realized you had to do this, and I did that, and lo and behold, it actually worked. So for the next 2 weeks, I was using these fountain pens non-stop. Now, one thing I should say, the fact that I was using a fountain pen didn't mean I was actually 100% enjoying it, because I'd seen on Reddit at the time, there were these awesome gifs of fountain pens, such as a Namiki fountain or a Noodler's Ahab, just flexing the crap out of itself, and doing awesome calligraphy writing. This pen, however, didn't do anything like that. It skipped all the time, and it didn't flex at all. In fact, I tried to make it flex, and I pretty much bent the nib, and I almost ruined the nib. I had to get in a different nib, and then I tried to bend the nib back. It was absolutely horrible. So my first impressions of the 78G weren't all that well. But the reason why I kept using it was because I had a friend next to me, and I used to, I bragged for a little bit saying, you simpleton, you're using a ballpoint pen. Why don't you come and use a fountain pen? I just spent $20 on a fountain pen. Well, I didn't do it that pretentiously, but you get the point. And when he saw that I was using this fountain pen, and when he saw it was skipping, he was like, mate, I think you wasted your money on it. That is an absolute waste of your money. And I honestly just couldn't handle that. So for the next week and a half, I endured it skipping. I endured some of the worst writing just to say to him, yeah, well, I bought this fountain pen and I don't regret it. So once the ink cartridges ran out, the pen quietly went away for a little bit, and that was pretty much it until I think December of that year, because in that time my grandpa knew I was using a fountain pen. He didn't realize that I'd stopped using it because I didn't like it, but he bought me a special pen for Christmas that year, and it was this pen. This is the Parker, what is this? This is the Parker Sonnet. Come on, there we go. This is the Parker Sonnet, and this was a beautiful pen. This has a proper gold nib and everything, and because it has a gold nib, I thought I had to go back and start using fountain pens, and my god, was this a wonderful writing experience. This is probably one of my favourite fountain pens of all time. In fact, I use it all the time. Just a beautiful fountain pen to write with. And for the first term of year 11, I pretty much used this pen exclusively. My everyday carry was the Sonnet, and with the Sonnet I just put in the 78G just in case I ran out of ink. And I carried this around in my school backpack, and as you can see from this this case, it didn't get treated all that well. It had been, bashed up. There's tons of pieces missing. It's scratched and gouged to hell. But one thing I did do was take care of my Parker Sonnet, and of course 78G, because they're not cheap pens compared to this pen. I made sure to keep these pens safe because I didn't want them being stolen. So 24-hour surveillance. There's no way that I was letting this out of my bag, blazer pocket, or whatever. under high-tech security. So, these were my everyday carry pens for the first term or so in year 11. Now, sometime in the school holidays, the next school holidays, I was waiting for some friends to rock up to the movies, and near the movies where I go to the movies in the city, there is an Officeworks, and I was in Officeworks, and I saw that they had a whole bunch of fountain pens. There were pretty much some Pilots, and there were some Lamy Safaris. And I don't really like Lamy Safaris. Well, back at that point, I hadn't really used a Lamy Safari, but I didn't think I'd like the grip that much. So I spent $50 on this. This is the third fountain pen that I'd ever bought. It was a Pilot Prera. It came with a medium nib, probably one of my favourite nibs of all time, but upon buying it, I instantly regretted it, and I don't understand why. I just didn't like the looks or something at the time, and the looks do take a little bit of time to get used to, but I really didn't like it. I tested it once, and I thought, yeah, maybe $50 was a bit too much to spend on this pen. What if I break the nib or something and I just return it? Just say the pen doesn't write, the pen is scratchy or something, and I was really going to do that, except I couldn't really be bothered to. I was a bit lazy. So I thought to myself, you know, why not just continue using this pen? I bought it and I started using this pen. I used it every day, and about 3 days in, after thinking, you know, it's not worth taking it back, within 3 days I was absolutely loving this pen. Its nib probably is one of my favourite nibs of all time on a fountain pen. I love the medium nib on this fountain pen, and as a result it is one of my favourite pens of all time. So thank God I didn't take it back. So for the next term, I'd say, I went around at school with these 3 pens as my everyday carry pens. So sometime in second term we were given an assignment. No, sometime in third term we were given an assignment for year 12, because we start year 12 in at the end of the year, not at the beginning of the next year. We start year 12 in about October or so, which is a really weird system, but it works. So for our year 12 major assignment, it was going to be, well, for DT, I chose to do a fountain pen. That is the brass fountain pen that you can see in this little clip here, and as a result of me liking fountain pens, I chose to do fountain pens, and that gave me a reason to splurge on buying a few extra fountain pens just to test out the waters, do a little bit of research. It was all bollocks and stuff, but I went ahead and bought a whole bunch of Chinese fountain pens just to see what cheap fountain pens were like. So the pens that I bought were this: a Jinhao 599. This isn't the original Jinhao 599, it had broken, the thing snapped off. I bought a Jinhao X450, a Hero 366, and I also bought a Jinhao 601. And unfortunately the Jinhao 601 isn't with us here today because I lost it. In fact, it's probably one of the only fountain pens that I've ever actually lost. Either I lost it or some little bastard took it. Either way, I don't have it at the moment. So for a while they became my everyday carry pens, so I could test them and just use them for my DT assignment. And this was at the end of 2016, and before I went on holiday I made a review of this, because I'd already been posting on Reddit a few times beforehand, but I went ahead and thought, why not make a fountain pen review? So I did, and I made a review on this. This is the Hero 366, a $1 fountain pen, I think I named the video. Wonderful little video. I filmed it very quickly on, I think it was my old iPhone 5. Man, that was a very old video, but you know the rest of the story. Since I've done that, I've racked up a really awesome YouTube channel with a whole bunch of awesome people that I can talk to. So that there is my story of how I got into using fountain pens, and who knows where the future will have for me. Thanks for watching.